Okay, so let's continue here. Ransomware is another form of malware, okay? And what it does is it prevents you from using your computer until you pay a fee. Okay? Payment is usually requested in Bitcoin, just due to the fact that Bitcoin is a digital encrypted currency, and it's relatively anonymous on both ends as far as who sends the money and who's receiving the money. Okay. Ransomware is sort of like the flavor of the month right now. Okay, all you hear about is ransomware, 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 and it is scary. It really does. If you get infected with ransomware, it sort of, depending on how the code was written, it will search through your files and it's going to encrypt anything that's seen, would be valuable to you. For example, all your documents. It's going to encrypt all your pictures, all your music, all your whatever you have on your machine, things that are of value to you, things that are important. And what it'll do is it'll lock them up basically, and they'll tell you you have like an hour to pay us, however, whatever amount they choose, through Bitcoin usually, and then if you don't pay, then your computer's going to remain locked up and you're not going to be able to access your files. Okay? And then they, if you do pay, then they'll supposedly give you the key to unencrypt your files and then be able to access and use them again. So you have about a 50-50 chance of them actually doing that for you, because once you've paid, I'm sorry to say, but nobody really cares about your files other than you. So they may give you a key to unencrypt your files, and they may not. And that's the scary part. Okay. A rootkit is a set of programs that allows someone to gain control over a computer system while hiding the fact that the computer has been compromised. A rootkit is almost impossible to detect. And it allows the machine to become even further infected by masking behavior of other malware. So your anti-malware software isn't going to pick up on it. So pretty dangerous there. Okay, so the scary part's over. How do we secure our computers? Well, one of the most common ways to get a malware infection on a computer is by downloading it. Okay? This could happen in a drive-by download. A drive-by download occurs when you visit a website that installs a program in the background without your knowledge. So you don't even know it's happening, and then all of a sudden you get a special bonus prize of, some malware. Okay? So this is why we use our firewalls. Firewalls are designed to block unauthorized access to our networks. And a software firewall blocks access to your individual machine. Antivirus programs protect against viruses, trojans, worms, and spyware. Anti-spyware software prevents adware and spyware software from installing itself on your computer. And security suites are packages of security software that include a combination of different features. Router. Your router is a device that connects two or more networks. So we just finished talking about that. Okay. Home router also acts like a firewall. Okay. Something called NAT, which is Network Address Translation, is a router security feature that shields devices on a private network, so like your home network, from the public network, which is the internet. A wireless router provides a wireless access point to your network. So make sure you do the things we went over. Use the router setup utility to change the SSID, change your wireless network name, okay, and enable and configure wireless encryption. The operating system is the most important piece of security software. It's best to keep it patched and up to date. By default, Windows and macOS computers are configured to automatically install updates. So the only way to try to be safe is to be proactive and diligent in protecting your computer system. So now we're talking about how to practice safe computing. All right. There's 3 types of user accounts. You have standard accounts, you have administrator, and you have guest accounts. And user account control, that's UAC, is going to notify you before changes are made to your computer. Okay, so don't turn that feature off. Leave it on, and remember to always read the message before clicking yes. Okay, this is going to say, are you sure you want to allow this software to make changes to your machine? And you read the reason, like what it's going to actually do, and then you can decide if you want to, yes or no. Okay. Malware can actually trick users into clicking fake Windows notifications. So make sure you know what you're clicking on before you do it. Once you click on a fake notification, that's going to sort of trigger this malware. Okay. Passwords. There's lots of different rules to use when you're creating a strong password. The basic guidelines include using at least 8 characters, mixing upper and lowercase letters. Make sure you use at least 1 number, and if allowed, at least 1 special character. Okay. Don't use any words that can be found in a dictionary, and don't use things that are personally identifiable. Okay. Other things, don't write it down. I've had many bosses who kept their password written down, their passwords, on a piece of paper underneath their keyboard. I didn't go snooping around, they just told me that, so don't do that. Okay, it's not a good idea. Answer your security questions with unexpected answers, but make sure you remember what you actually answered, because if you forget, then you're not going to be able to get into your accounts either. Don't use the same password for every account. Okay, I am definitely occasionally guilty of this, just because, I have a lot going on, and it's really hard for me to remember 8 million different passwords. Okay, so try and be a better person than me and use different passwords for different accounts. Use more complex passwords for more sensitive accounts, like your bank accounts and your credit cards. Make sure you always change the default password. Don't make your password. That's a horrible password, okay? And change your passwords regularly. Usually you'll get prompted to do this, usually about every 6 months or so, but you could change them more regularly than that if you like. Okay, encryption. This is supposed to be a picture of Google. I'm not sure why they're looking like that. What encryption does is it converts unencrypted plain text into this code called ciphertext. In order to read this encrypted information, you have to have a key to decrypt it. Okay? You also need to be sure it is a secure website. So you can check for this by confirming the HTTPS protocol in the URL and a padlock in the address bar. So even though we can't see it, this does say HTTPS. This is for Gmail. Okay. This is showing you the green padlock, saying that yes, this is using the secure socket layer technology. Okay. And let's see. Windows actually includes Encrypting File System, EFS, which enables you to encrypt individual files. And macOS has a similar feature that's called File Vault. So it's really great if you can find an encryption program that you like and start using it, because lucky for you, you get spared my paranoia lectures since we don't actually meet in person. I try not to go off on my tangents here on my online lectures, but yeah, encryption is important. Privacy is very important. If you aren't encrypting your information, it's pretty much open for anyone to read, including government, including your internet service provider, pretty much anyone. Okay, so encryption, look it up, use it. Safely installing software. Okay, installing software copies files to your computer, and so this may alter system settings. So this is what it's going to ask you. This is your user account control stuff too. You're going to see, are you sure you want to let Google make changes to your computer? Okay, make sure you're aware of what you're doing. You should only download from reliable sources. Okay. An attack that occurs on the day that an exploit is discovered before the publisher can fix it is called a zero-day exploit. Okay. Bugs. These are just basically holes, security holes, or flaws in the programming. Okay. And so in order to fend off these bugs, I mean, there's every piece of software pretty much has a bug, because that's just how it goes. Okay. If you've ever written any code, you know, debugging is like a huge part of the process. Okay. And so your software providers release these patches or hotfixes, and what they do is they address these individual problems like a bug. Okay. If they have a bigger problem, then they usually are going to release these service packs, and these are larger, like planned updates, and they go through and they fix a lot of problems that were in the software. Many businesses and schools have something called an acceptable use policy, okay, AUP, and this is these are the rules by which computer and network users must abide. By you using the Highlands Network, you have agreed to their acceptable use policy. The restrictions depend on the type of business and the type of information that you need access to. So although these policies can feel restrictive and annoying, they actually force you as a user to practice safe computing, and they protect the business or the college or wherever you happen to be working. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the laws. Because crimes are so varied, there's no single authority that's responsible for investigating cybercrime. We have something called the IC3, which is the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and this is a place for victims to report cybercrimes. At its website, which is ic3.gov, notice our top-level domain there, .gov, okay, a report is processed and then forwarded to the appropriate agency. Okay, and these agencies include the FBI, the Secret Service, Immigration and Customs, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and also the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. So just depending on what your complaint is, then they'll forward it to the appropriate authorities. In 1986, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act was passed, making it a crime to access classified information. There were several amendments between 1988 and 2002 that added additional cybercrimes. The USA Patriot anti-terrorism legislation in 2001 and the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act in 2002 also include provisions for fighting cybercrime. The Convention on Cybercrime Treaty has been signed by more than 40 countries, including the United States, Canada, and Japan. So, be careful what you do online, basically. Privacy is pretty much a thing of the past, unless you figure out ways around that. Be a good person, use your moral compass, and you'll be good. But Patriot Act, right here. Okay, we give up a lot of freedoms, basically. Net neutrality is something you need to research on. So there's lots of other topics we could get into, and hopefully if you happen to be interested in this stuff, you might consider taking more CS classes. But for us, this is going to be the end of the chapters for us. I like to quit after chapter 10. I feel like we've covered plenty of information in that time. Okay, so please feel free to ask me any questions you might have, post them up in the discussion post, and I will happily talk about this stuff with you guys. All right, bye-bye.